Hello, and welcome to Controversial Data Topics podcast, where we educate about critical issues in our community, government, and workplaces. We connect with and encourage our listeners and uncover hidden agendas, motives, and truths about data and technology that have crippled society for more than 3 decades. I am your host, Dr. Holly K. Neal, also known as the Data Boss Lady. Welcome. A little over a week ago, the highlight of our podcast segment uncovered some hidden treasures for our listeners about distinguishing whether technology is a friend or foe. Just in case you skipped that episode, keep in mind that episode 4 is a continuation and helps bring things full circle as we heighten your awareness about technology and data and how they impact you as a member in society. Now, in this episode, we set our stage around technological devices and how they may or may not be deceptive, helpful, or neutral to the users of the product or technology. Our topic for today's program, information technology, mark of the beast, brainwashed, or brain dead. So, today, I want to evaluate chip technology, or what some might refer to as the human microchip. We will look at some intersection points when those technologies were introduced into society and extend to you knowledge around how some chip technology or systems have helped, crippled, or even hindered members in society. My goal today is to help you become more aware about technology and think more critically about how it impacts you as a member in society. Familiarize yourself with these insights, and you will understand how you might look for similar impacts on your job, at your next doctor's visit, at your college, or even your child's school. Discoveries I reveal in this episode could even help you when transacting business in the marketplace, making an intelligent decision about your health, or during your next order online. Today, we will dive into the following: chip technology or systems, brainwashed versus brain dead and what they can mean to you. Then third, the data boss lady perspective. We will absorb those highlights in just a moment. But first, I want you to be aware that before the end of this segment, I will leave you some suggested materials for you to consider purchasing or even reading to learn more about changes in technology that are happening globally, in particular with artificial intelligence and the ways chip technology or systems are connected to the same. First, let's take a deeper dive into how chip technology or human microchip was introduced into our society. I'm going to start with a film or movie that some may be familiar with, but others should watch after this podcast to better understand or refresh yourself on how the microchip was introduced subtly in the latter part of the last century. The name of the movie, Total Recall, a 1990s science fiction film that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a character named Douglas Quaid. However, the movie was based on a man having something implanted into his memories to alter his thinking about certain events and ability to distinguish between what is real versus a figment of his imagination. Without giving more details, because I really want you to go back and watch it, I want you to ask yourself this question: if a microchip is implanted into my body, does it alter my thinking, making me brain dead, or do I become brainwashed? Pause and just think about that for a moment. Now, the second technology was first patented in the mid 1980s, roughly around 1985 or so, by a California-based organization named Avid. Spell like A like Apple, V like Victor, I like Igloo, D like David. And they basically had their first implant of the Avid identification system for pets sold around 1989 or so. Now, the pet microchip was a technology that helped pet owners locate via the global positioning system, which is also known as the GPS. And many of you are familiar with the GPS because it's on your phone, it's in your car, it's different places, different technology devices that you use today. But the GPS helped the pet owners locate their pets using a chip that was implanted under the skin of that pet. So similar to those, we know that some humans may have agreed to have implanted under their skin for different forms or other purposes. Now, due to the subtle nature and the method that seemed harmless at that time, this type of technology was helpful, or was it really harmful to the pet or pet owners? I'll let you think about that. Before you even answer, I want you to consider this question with the data or information revealed about this technology so far and what you may or may not know about it, whether you have friends or you have relatives or you have neighbors who also use this technology, or you may be using it on your own pet. Are pet owners really brainwashed to accept the technology because it helps control or know the whereabouts of their pet at all times and track their location? That's the first question. My next question is, how is this different than GPS tracking your location on your cell phone? I bet you didn't think about that. And they could track your whereabouts that you cannot even seem to put down that phone and realize that they're constantly watching you. So how is that pet microchip similar to the chip that you have in your cell phone? So pause and think about that for a moment before we go to the next one. So our third technology for this segment that I want to introduce is related to contraceptive. Now, some of you may know where I'm going with this, others may not, depending on your age and whether or not you're familiar and whether or not this item was on the market at the time, either when you started or someone you know may have started this type of contraceptive. It was approved on or around August the 15th, 1996 by the FDA as a female contraceptive known as the Norplant. N like Nancy, O like Oscar, R like Roger, P like Peter, L like Larry, A like Adam, N like Nancy, T like Tom. So it's called the Norplant. Now, the Norplant was an implant system that consisted of 6 capsules that were inserted underneath the top layer of a woman's skin. Typically, it was implanted in her arm and had a lifespan of approximately 5 years to prevent pregnancy for those individuals or couples who wanted to gain more control over their birth control method and family planning over time. I will share details to some suggested readings later in this podcast. Now, one of the things I want to highlight in this segment is that many women who agreed to this type of contraceptive were impacted in various ways that adversely affected their health. Cancer was one of the most familiar to vast members in society who took this contraceptive. So the question I want you to ask yourself, what other ways had a technology system or similar chips been subtly introduced that I, meaning you, the listener, have embraced? Think about that and take a moment before you go on in this podcast. Now, I'm going to share my perspective, but next I want us to assess our second highlight of this episode, Brainwashed versus Braindead, and what chip technology could mean to you. Now, let's start with the data boss lady perspective of what it means to be brainwashed. It could best be described as a form of coercion where an individual may be intimidated to accept a form of thinking or systematic belief, which is similar to how humans may be oppressed, bullied, or subliminally pressured to radically adopt those same beliefs or thoughts. Now, on the flip side of the coin, I would say that brain dead is a term referenced in this episode to symbolize that an individual, group, or community has failed to use basic intellect to make a decision about life or some form of judgment that may or may not have an adverse effect on oneself or those to whom the person, group, or members in the community are connected. We have now reached the third point that I will call the climax of this podcast segment, the data boss lady perspective on the first and second highlights. As it specifically relates to the chip technology, the reason it is relevant to you as a listener is because there are data available about these technologies. Yet, members of society have seemed to ignore historical events that got us to this point in time. In what ways have humans subtly accepted technologies like the microwave oven over heating up food on the stove or in the oven? And how does that impact health overall? For example, using plastic versus fine dinnerware for heating up your item or eating your food from that item. So if you choose to heat it up in the microwave using plastic, or if you use some type of dinnerware that is microwave safe, if you do choose the microwave, what's the difference in the way the material of that plate breaks down in the microwave compared to, plastic versus, fine dinnerware? Even think about the cookware. So aluminum versus cast iron or titanium nonstick pans. This topic impacts smaller segments of the population that are more siloed, such as seen with the Noor plant. Specifically, it impacted women. At that time, many may have felt, oh, this is a great opportunity where we could do a study on women. But was it really a good study to actually place younger women in that position who are now suffering from cancer because of certain issues that they had or may have had with the Noor plant or other types of contraceptive method and under the skin? However, technology impacts larger segments of the population when we foolishly buy into developing a perception that nothing is wrong with paying for or being identified by technologies implanted and designed for use in robots as opposed to humans. So think about certain technologies. If they're up under our skin for a certain period of time, are they hurting us because they really don't belong there, as opposed to if it was inside of a robot who was rubbing metal against metal as opposed to flesh against metal? Think about that. So from a microeconomics perspective, have you ever wondered or questioned those in your circle about the primary impact technology solely has on human beings or corporations who monopolize the allocation, exchange, or consumption of products, food, and other basic items we use daily? Now, from a macroeconomic standpoint, ask yourself, in what ways markets, businesses, consumers, and government examined the wider economy with microchip phenomena with an intention to impact the rate of economic growth or human multiplication and the intent to control the financial freedom of human beings? Something to think about. If you have listened this far, I want to be sure to share materials you might research. But before I do that, please remember to subscribe so that you can catch our live stream Q&A sessions about data and technology we share with our subscribing podcast community members. Like, share, and subscribe if you have not already done so to ensure we bring more content that help you and others who are impacted by the changes technology is making in the workplace, homes, and even your communities. Now let's get back to it. As a society, we are not to become brainwashed into accepting the evils of this world as one would do who is brain dead, as I described in this podcast. Yes, technology has helped society, but in many ways, people are crippled through the failure to remember even simple things like a phone number because they are all stored in a cellular device, or even understand how to do basic mathematical equations without a calculator. Some people forgot how to even multiply or divide, or what it means to have a remainder of one. What is the meaning of all of this? So I'll provide some suggested readings with the author and even some of the approximate release dates, as well as the website information. And this time only, I am leaving those pieces of information or links in the description. In future episodes, only subscribers will receive the same. So be sure to subscribe to my channel on Spotify and YouTube. In this episode, we highlighted some chip technologies and how the subliminal exposure has caused members in society to appear brain dead or brainwashed, as I defined in this segment. I also provided a data boss lady perspective on these subtle intersection points that have helped, harmed, or remained neutral to users of the product or technology systems. I sincerely hope this episode has been helpful and heightened your awareness about certain types of chip technologies impacting you or others you know. Education on these topics empower you as opposed to hinder you. Be sure to join us in the next episode where we will ponder the truth about the mind, heart, and soul behind technology and software applications you use on the job or in your home. It is in that episode where we will disclose the foe of technology. So if you missed episode 3, now is the time to listen to it. I thank you for listening today. I am the Data Boss Lady, Dr. Holly K. Neal, signing off. Enjoy a blessed week until the next time we virtually connect. Goodbye, good day, good night.